Hey, Cookies here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Mythic Eye of the Jailer logs. So the first major thing that I want to go over in this fight is just the management of the debuffs during the intermission, especially if you're doing a strategy where you are swapping sides of who's on which side, and everyone is swapping, whether it's the tanks also swapping or not, that's fine. This still kind of works the same as long as you're just at some point swapping sides and not just staying on your sides the entire time, because then this is irrelevant. So when you switch sides, the main thing you want to watch out for is what number of stacks everyone is at, and that's kind of your go-to. So like I use the idea that as soon as we hit 4 stacks, we are moving to the next area, and we don't want to get a fifth stack. The 5th stack that we get should be our debuffs falling off and us getting the new debuff. So here you can see we hit 4 stacks. As soon as we hit 4 stacks, we are moving. So here's 2, 3, and 4, and we go. And now you'll see our debuffs fall off here on the left side, and the right side should as well. Everybody debuff falls off. Here we see one thing, right? We see a Resto Shaman still with a debuff. So what this means is the general rule of thumb that I also make is if you have the opposite side debuff on, the side that you're on, you want to stay completely away from the group. At the time, our Shaman did not notice that he had the debuff still. So I was on his side and I noticed that he had it, just tracking through like raid frames. And I just said, hey, make sure you're not standing near anybody. You need to move. And because he's standing by these 3 players, the rogue's going to move in, so he's standing by 2 players. So I'm like, okay, you need to move away. And why is this? It's because watch this. So when the next set of debuffs refresh, the debuffs actually refresh before the old ones expire. So if you have the wrong debuff but everyone else is fine, it's okay to stand by everybody for now. But as soon as everyone gets their little tick of the debuff, it's going to just kill everybody around you because theirs goes on first before yours falls off. So we tell the Shaman to get out, he moves out of the way, his debuff falls off, now he can walk in because it's totally fine. Because now these guys have the right debuff, they have the red debuff on the red side of the room. So now he's going to get a red debuff, so it doesn't matter if he's in the middle of the group when that happens. That's okay, because it's the same debuff. It's just when it's opposites. So it's the same thing for the other side where, I don't know if it happens here, but we'll just see if it happens again here. So everyone goes to the other sides, and debuff should fall off right about now. So see right there is a good example of like something that potentially could have gone wrong. I think the rogue just happened to not be... So there, like, sometimes it just doesn't... It's just like the timing is really finicky. So like there, it didn't pop and blow everybody up, but it could have. And it, in some polls, it would. That's like the problem is the debuffs like fall off and go on people at the same time, but there's some kind of weird thing that happens where the majority of the time that I see it, it will just kill everybody outright. So the reason that this happens is because the rogue is cloaking. So this is Rexby over here. So when he jumps across, I believe he cloaks. It should be, let's see. Should be when the big AoE damage. Yeah, so he's cloaking this big AoE damage that happens, but in return what that does is drop his debuff and he doesn't get a 4th stack. So he's going across the platform with no debuff. So what you would do here is, because everybody else has the red debuff, let's go ahead and see. Yeah. So what you would do in this case is you would want to stay away from the raid until your debuff is on you. It's just kind of awkward with rogue cloak and stuff, so I definitely would not recommend using immunities during the intermission, or at least be aware of which debuff you have, because that can kind of mess everything up too. And then let's go ahead and look at the other side and see if they had anybody with debuff mismatches. So they run over. People's debuffs should be falling off here shortly. Right about now. And we have the Hunter who still has a debuff refreshed, so they're at 5 stacks. and they do a very good job of staying completely away from the raid. Now their debuff falls off, they join the raid. So it's as simple as that. If you have the opposite side's debuff when you're on this side or the other side, whatever, you know, if you're on red side and you have the ire debuff, or you're on ire side and you have the scorn debuff, you just want to stay completely away from everyone until your debuff fully fades away, and pretty much until you get the new debuff. But as long as everyone has the, you know, there's no like mismatches, it's totally fine. And then the only other thing about this fight is cooldown usage. So I would definitely recommend going and looking at other guilds. So like I have a couple guilds that I usually like tend to, I guess, lean towards looking at their logs and stuff for things. So like here, I'll just look up a guild that I know well. I will look at their raids and I'll go to when they were progging on Mythic Eye. So I'll go back here, I believe it would be. So here's their first eye kill, it looks like. Is this it? Yeah. This is Eye of the Jailer. It appears, yeah, because this is, we just want midweek, we don't want weekend stuff. Okay, so we go to midweek, we go to their first eye kill, and we're just going to go in here and we're just going to pick the class that we play and see when they press their cooldown. So we'll just look at the, you know, the two holy paladins basically. So what we can do is go, if we want to look at both of them, we could just go to cast and then look at all abilities, and we're just going to look up Ashen Hollow because that's the main one that I want to see. So Ashen Hollow, and there we go. So you can see how different this is from what you'd normally expect, because you're not lusting until 6 or 7 minutes into the fight, depending how fast your guild's killing this. So what they're doing is they're pressing Ashen on the first intermission with the eyes, because again, like I said, your boss damage and boss healing during just the boss phases is pretty irrelevant. It's only the intermissions that are challenging and that require you to keep people alive and require you to do enough damage to push through those phases without, you know, ruining your raid's HP. So what they do is they use both Ashens here in the intermission, the first intermission, and then it's backup for lust at the end. I think mine even turned out to be better timing just because we didn't lust till 7 minutes in. So if I go to our logs and look at Mythic Eye, I ended up using Ashen. Unfortunately, we didn't have our second Holy Paladin in, so it offset it a little bit, but we go to my cast, and then we look at Ashen Hollow, and there it is. So it's a little bit later, because we get into the intermission later, but I have Ashen back up since it's like, you know, that longer duration in between, because they were lusting at like 6 minutes just because they were pushing through the fight faster, and we were lusting right here at 7, so I get Ashen for the entire lust. So just going and looking at a guild, just find like a reputable guild basically that, and try to find a player who plays your class really well, and then just look at where they were pressing cooldowns. Obviously see if they had like a strategic difference in their approach. But as long as they're doing a similar strategy to your guild, you can generally go off of the cooldown usage that the other guilds had that killed this boss before you. And that's pretty much it for Mythic Eye. So hopefully this video helped. If you have any recommendations of what could make these like log boss review things, you know, more insightful, let me know. And I will see you guys in the next one.